You notice your child avoids eye contact. Sometimes they completely freeze in social situations. And you're left wondering, is this autism, ADHD, or anxiety? The tricky thing is, these signals can overlap so much that figuring it out can feel like trying to untangle a very messy ball of yarn. And misreading these signs, that can delay the support your child truly needs. So today, let's try to make sense of it together. Before we dive in, a gentle reminder. What we are talking about here isn't a diagnosis. It's about understanding patterns and possibilities. If you suspect your child may need support, always consult a qualified professional. Now, why does this even matter? Because autism, anxiety, and ADHD don't just sit in neat little boxes. They often blend, overlap, and sometimes even coexist. For example, research shows that nearly a third of autistic individuals also show ADHD traits. And anxiety is incredibly common in autistic children, but sometimes it hides behind other behaviors and goes completely unnoticed. This overlap can make things incredibly confusing. That's why having an accurate, informed evaluation is so important. Let's start with autism. When a child is autistic, you might notice patterns that go beyond just occasional quirks. Social communication can be a challenge, like struggling to understand nonverbal cues, finding it difficult to join imaginative play, or having trouble connecting with peers in ways that seem natural for other kids. You may also see repetitive or predictable behaviors like lining up toys in a very specific way, needing to follow strict routines, or using repetitive movements such as hand flapping or rocking to regulate themselves. Sensory sensitivities often play a big role too. What feels like a minor change to us might be overwhelming for them. Maybe it's the sound of the vacuum cleaner, a different brand of cereal, or the texture of a shirt. These experiences aren't just preferences, they are deeply felt and can impact every part of daily life. Now, ADHD looks quite different. Here, the main struggles usually revolve around focus, energy, and self regulation. You might notice your child constantly losing things, zoning out mid conversation, or having trouble sticking with tasks from start to finish. Hyperactivity and restlessness are common, especially in younger kids, along with impulsivity, like acting before thinking. Emotional regulation can be tough too, with big feelings spilling out suddenly, sometimes in ways that seem unpredictable or intense. And then there's executive functioning, planning, organizing, managing time, skills that might feel completely out of reach for them. Unlike autism, ADHD isn't typically about rigid routines or repetitive behaviors. It's more about a mind and body that feel like they are always on the go, always chasing the next thing, often without a pause button. And then there's anxiety, which can be the most confusing of all because it can mimic or overlap with both autism and ADHD. A child with anxiety might show overwhelming fear in new situations or social settings. They might try to avoid transitions or any kind of change because it feels too uncertain or threatening. Sometimes the anxiety shows up physically: muscle tension, meltdowns, even rigid routines that on the surface can look very similar to autism. And that's where it gets really tricky. Anxiety driven rigidity can easily be mistaken for autism. From the outside, the behaviors may look identical, but inside, what's driving them is completely different. Because of all this overlap, misdiagnosis is common. Autism is often mistaken for anxiety or ADHD, and many autistic children also have traits of anxiety, OCD, or ADHD at the same time. There's even something called diagnostic overshadowing, where a professional sees the autism diagnosis and then dismisses everything else, saying, "Oh, that's just autism." When there may actually be separate challenges like anxiety or depression that need their own attention and care. I once spoke with a parent who said, "We were discharged after being told it was just high social anxiety. But the meltdowns continued, the sensory triggers were everywhere. Only later did we find out it was actually autism." Can you imagine the emotional toll of that? Not just for the child, but for the whole family, navigating support systems that don't quite fit because the original understanding wasn't complete. So, what actually helps? First, take a step back and observe. Look at what's happening across different settings: home, school, play dates. Are the behaviors consistent everywhere, or do they change depending on the environment or who's around? Second, make sure any assessments are designed with neurodiverse profiles in mind. The right screening tools can reveal a lot that a simple checklist might miss. And third, seek out professionals who truly understand differential diagnosis. The process of teasing apart what belongs to autism, what belongs to ADHD, and what might be anxiety or something else entirely. It's not about rushing to a label, it's about deeply understanding your child. Most importantly, don't lose sight of the whole child, their strengths, their rhythms, their challenges. They are so much more than any diagnosis or set of traits. When we approach this with empathy, curiosity, and respect, we open the door to real connection and meaningful support. Figuring it out, whether it's autism, ADHD, anxiety, or a mix, can feel overwhelming. But clarity is possible, and you don't have to walk this path alone. If you have been wondering where to start or you need help navigating your child's unique neurodevelopmental journey, consider booking a consultation with Educatable. Together, we can honor who your child truly is and create a pathway that helps them thrive. Understanding is always the first step. It's how empowerment begins for you, your child, and for the future you're building together.